What is going on, everybody? 'Tis I, the enigma of the gun airwaves, Miyanovich, welcoming you to Season 3 of the Liberal Gun Owners Lens podcast, where unprecedented perspectives are packed into the cargo hold for the LGO Lens spaceship Voyagio.
That's fucking Italian.
Don't believe that evolution is possible with guns and public safety in America? It's already happening, y'all. Minds are evolving. Think guns versus public safety is the only game in town, do ya? Think culture war is the big boss, do ya? Then keep your ass in the past. Everyone else, all aboard! What, you moved yourself kind of into MILSURP a little bit at some point, not like a giant collector or whatever, but you have interest and got it in your blood. When did that happen?
Yeah, so that happened about 2004, I think, is when I went ahead and applied and got my Curio and Relic federal firearms license. So where I could, buy guns and have them shipped to my door as long as they fell under that Curio and Relic subset of the NFA. I don't remember if it was a class 3 or 03. It's been so long, I haven't renewed it in forever. But in any case, that happened as, so in 2002, I graduated from college and was back in the Conroe area. I was living in the Woodlands and working for a company called Hewitt Associates. And somehow I had hooked up with one of my brother's old friends that I had known forever as a kid. And he started showing me all these cool old guns that he got. I'm like, where'd you get these cool, he had like an Enfield and an old Carcano. And I'm like, where'd you get this? And he showed me the first time I'd seen this. So it's called Southern Ohio Gun, or SOG. And this was one of those retailers where with your federal firearms license, you could buy these MILSURPs that they bought in bulk from the big importers and then resold, and I'm looking at the prices. I'm like, holy shit, I can get a Mauser for $150, like an actual 8mm, like that one that you shot. That was a hand pick, what they called a hand pick, where you paid a little extra for them to pick one out of the barrel that was a little nicer, that maybe wasn't as dinged up. It was like, I think it was like a $20 fee. But that Russian capture K98K, 8mm Mauser I bought from Southern Ohio Gun, paid the handpick fee. That was the one that you shot, was literally $149. And I was like, this is cool because, I went to study music. I finished up with a degree in history and I work in the financial world. So go figure. So I've always had a love of history, especially, like most, white guys, in their 40s. I was always interested in World War II, would build models with my dad of like every single German and American tank and equipment plane. Like I loved all of that stuff. So when I saw that I could actually own these weapons and I had, and shoot them and collect them, that opened me up to a wider world. And then that brought me onto the internet. And that's where I got. So at this point in 2002, you're still in the forums, right? It's the BBS. And so I was on one called Parallax Bill, which was a big Curio and Relic, like collector firearm MILSURP community that had lots of knowledge. And that's where I could go in there and mine that knowledge and connect with other like individuals. And it wasn't in my face like, self-defense, AR, fuck the government, Second Amendment. That was there and that was a part of it. But it was more like, hey guys, so I just picked up this, this Finish M39. I don't know if this is the correct stock. It's a VKT receiver dated 1942. Does that mean it was continuation war? Like, it was that kind of discussion. So it's kind of a nerdier subset that appealed to me. And then, once I think from this guy, Mike, he showed me that site. He told me about how to get, apply for the license. I went through it, filled out the forms, sent, the copy to the law, chief, the Leo for your county, essentially to the sheriff to say, hey, I'm applying for this, check me out. I'm okay. Then I started buying, specific weapons that I wanted that were, first of all, it was affordable. It was really affordable in the early 2000s. You could buy ammo at bulk for just ridiculously low prices. And I'm like, this is cool. And then that took me to the range where I would go on a Saturday and I'd spend 2 hours at the range target shooting with my various MILSURPs. And, I could put 200 rounds down range for like $5. It was just ridiculous. I mean, that's an exaggeration, but that's what got me to shooting a lot. and then opened me up to that wider world.
Yeah. And for those who are listening who may know or may have seen the Recoil article, there's a picture in the Recoil article that LGO is in.
Yeah.
With Rabbi Hillel Nori, and he's shooting Josh's K-98 Russian capture with Nazi markings on it. And that was a very, very cool moment to be able to hand that rifle to Hillel and have him shoot it and have him have the feelings which he had, which were basically like, fuck you.
Yeah.
We've got this rifle now, you motherfuckers. That was legitimately his feeling. So if you think about that, you went through all of, whatever you went through with MILSURP, and it kind of winds up in you being able to hand one of your pieces to a rabbi, a Nazi Russian capture Nazi piece to a rabbi and have him shoot it. That's pretty fucking cool, man.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. I mean, it had the spicy chickens on there, as we call them, or the full on Waffenopt, and here he is, putting it down range. Definitely not what the original manufacturers of that rifle had intended. Was that he would have that pointing it back at a target, but literally, figuratively, I guess, back at them, and likely was made with Jewish slave labor at this point, because mine was in 1944, so it's late war. They were doing everything they could just to replace what they had already lost. So it was likely made in a factory by slave labor, that's just wild. The full circle.
Yeah. And the full circle is beautiful. As much as it's tragic as it is, it could not be that way. We could not be putting that stamp on the end of it, that exclamation point on the end of it, but we were.
Absolutely.
So did MILSURP cool off for you?
I mean, I was pretty heavy with MILSURP through about 2006, 2007, where I'd collected enough pieces, because I was pretty selective. I wanted, most of the Negats were easy to come by at the time, so you could get the old dirty, Russian craptastic rifles for very little cash. So I just picked out, pieces that I wanted to round out the collection, different models, different years. I really liked war used stuff, or stuff from that time, from World War II. Picked up some other things, got my CZ52, my crazy, Czech 7.62 by 25, heater, which is just an insane little pistol, which was also CNR as well, interestingly enough. But that sort of cooled off, I guess, about 2007, 2008. I kind of had my collection where I wanted it, and there wasn't really much else I wanted. And I thought, AR-15s and black guns and Glocks were just, stupid, like just guys performative showing off. Like, you don't need that. That's ridiculous. I'm just as good with my SKS, man.
Sure. Yeah. So since we're there, let's talk about your transition from Fudd to a guy that's like open to self-defense more, or thinking about self-defense more, but thinking about modern guns more and the legitimacy and training and all of that. Like, I know the answer is LGO, but let's go through that process. Like what helped you to go through the process from being like one of these kind of stiff, I don't know if you were necessarily a Fudd, because you would defend yourself still. But you went from a stiffly Stifferson dude, about modern training and modern rifles and pistols, to being open to it. What happened there?
Yeah, I mean, no, I would definitely categorize myself as a Fudd. If I was on different forums, I'd probably, beef with somebody that was just, all 2A AR-15, double AR-15s, Eagle Scream. Like I thought that was ridiculous, and, what just wasn't interested in it. But what changed, or what got me to LGO, which then obviously, accelerated that transformation, was that, what was this, the NRA spokesman? What was her name? Dana
Loesch.
Yes, Loesch. That "we're coming for you, liberals." That video came out. I was like, what the fuck is it? And they sent it to me in the mail too. And I'm like, get the fuck out of here. I want nothing to do with you. I'm like, is this really what so you're coming for me? Is basically what you're telling me. You're liberal and you're trying to take our guns, and that ain't happening. And I got onto Facebook. I already thought I was, kind of a cool, edgy Facebook group member guy, before I was in, Twitter or anything else. I'm like, I bet there's something out on Facebook. So I'm like, liberal gun owners. I'm like, okay, cool. What is this? Got on to liberal gun owners and then started that journey. But it didn't, my eyes weren't opened until you invited me in to be a moderator and to kind of be part of that core group, which then connected me with other people that we got into meat space, right?
Yeah.
And people that I am still in meat space with and are good close friends. But it was that training when I had to gear up, for our first LGO firearms, development. And of course I missed the first one because of Easter, and, mama can't have me, gone. Easter is her holiday. But on the second one, after I had geared up, I realized, okay, first off, my gear's not right. Second of all, I gotta do some work. I'm interested in this now. Now I know how to apply this, the right way to apply it, why it's useful, why other people need this, or not necessarily need this, but should have access to this, and how, as this world has started to change, my thought has always been, or has developed into, no one's coming to save you. And where I live, they're going to come for us, and I'm not saying I'm armed up, ready to militia out, but I feel that that instability of those sort of wackadoos on the right that are really kind of more interested in this whole Civil War scenario, or sort of Handmaid's Tale scenario where they take over, like, nobody's coming to save you. I better know how to use these weapons. I better know how to be proficient. Not just for some crazy, fairy tale or fantasy of run and gun in the streets, but just that it's useful. And now that I know more about it, I know that if I needed to defend myself in some way, shape, or form, that carbine or that black plastic pistol is the one that's going to be there for me now that I know how to use it. Did that answer your question? I feel like I rambled.
No, it's good. Flow. So this is a good place to talk about a few things. The first is, it's amazing what happens when you're around the modern guns and the modern training, and the people that you're with aren't DBs.
Exactly.
They're not douchebags. You get to see, it defeats this place in your mind, the self-righteousness that happens around guns, which is, I do understand it, but part of me just will never be able to cotton to it, or resign myself to fully understanding how it is that people get so egotistical and self-righteous about guns, and so judgy about other people. So it defeats in your brain this thing that's like, only shithead, meathead, dummy fuckers do semi-automatics.
Right.
And only legitimate erudite gun people disassemble their rifles into 40 pieces and put it in the safe behind 4 other closed doors, and only go out with it twice a year, or only legitimate erudite people have MILSURP, or only legitimate erudite people stay away from semi-automatics, or whatever this shit is. It's completely illegitimate. It's cool that if a person has a viewpoint like, I don't see the use for an AR-15 for most all people, because most all people aren't ever going to need it or use it. And that's different. That's fine. I say that's a good perspective. I can accept that perspective. It's when people get judgy about it. And there's nothing like getting around people that they're actually good people. And not only that, they actually might be better than you.
Exactly.
At being a human.
Yes.
They might be a better human than you. And you can see it and you can tell. And they're also running a fucking AR or whatever, pick your semi-automatic rifle.
Right.
They might actually be better than you as a person. They might actually do more for the world than you do. They might actually do more for the downtrodden than you do. And yet they're training. So it defeats that part of the mind, which I think is amazing and helpful. The other thing is that the thing that you brought up about this shit with the small percentage of toxic patriots that want the Handmaid's Tale, they want the hero's arc, they believe in the George Washington, not always, but the George Washington Jesus tag team duo of Manifest Destiny, and they believe that's the only way. And they actually want things to fall apart. They want the whole thing to go to shit. Whether it needs to or not, it's a absolute projection on their part. They're not interested in what's real and what's not real. They just want that. That's very real. And I've said this before to people. There are probably so in this little deal where everything to this would be me speaking as them. Everything to the left of me is wrong. And fucking the country up. So everything to the left of me is socialism, and everything that's socialism is actually communism in disguise, and all communists, along with communism, need to be buried in the ground. There are 1 million people in the gun culture with firearms who believe that.
100%. And that's, I literally work with that guy. He is a great guy. You know, he's probably my best bud at work, and he is off the rails, Texas independent, you know, like wants the Republic of Texas, believes 100% in the Boogaloo, has the nods, has all the weapons. Like, dude is armed to the teeth. And even though we're friends and we pal and he likes me and I like him, I keep that part separate. He literally thinks me, you know, he thinks I'm just a commie pinko scum. And we're friends and we talk. I mean, red state gun owners, liberal gun owners, if you aren't interacting with those people, you're not shooting. You're just not. You're not in that wider world, because they are everywhere and they will pop up and you have to deal with them. You just do. And I think the blue state side, and I hate to make that red state, blue state thing, in that insular blue state world, you don't have to interact with people like that generally. I know that they're here. I see them all the time. I know they're here. They're undercover. It's, you know, it's the gray man. It's the, you know, the black line flag on the back of your, you know, sand colored Toyota, whatever that flat dark earth color is. Like, they're everywhere.
Yeah, the gun community. So I like to try to make a line between the gun community and gun owners. The gun community seems to be more linked with professionalism and commerce and YouTube and all of that. And you really can't, at that level, at the SHOT Show level, you can't go to SHOT Show and be like that.
Be a wingnut. Yeah.
You can't. You'll lose. Your company will lose. You'll lose. So when I say this shit to gun culture people, they're like, what are you talking about? Where is it? And that's because I call them boothies. They're people who have booths or aspire to have a booth at SHOT Show. Mm-hmm. They're in the upper echelon part of gun ownership, the top of the barrel part. But that's not all of gun ownership. That's the kind of a gun culture establishment. And there are people, those people are largely respectful. They're not dangerous. Et cetera, et cetera. But that's not gun ownership fully. This thing we're talking about is very prevalent. And it wasn't until we were able to get on the internet. You might have been able to see it in meat space because you live it. But a lot of us weren't able to see it until you get on the internet. And then in the early years when I was, you know, just started to get on relative to guns, 08, 09, 2010, it was shocking. Like how much we had to hide and how much I saw that. So there are easily 1 million people who have guns, who have that sensibility. All people that aren't me are communists, and they need to be buried in the ground with communism. Now, there's another, and that's a low estimate in my opinion. So there's at least another 1 million of people who wouldn't quite go that far. They wouldn't go, they need to be buried in the fucking ground. Right? They wouldn't go that far. They would say everything to the left of me is socialism. All socialism is communism. Communism needs to be buried in the ground. And those people probably need to be buried in the ground. I'm not going to bury them in the ground. But if somebody else buries them in the ground, oh well, probably a better world if that happens. That's another 1 million people that own guns that are in the gun reality. Okay. So you have 2 million people that can contribute to that. As a matter of fact, I've seen more of that liberals need to be buried in the ground than I've seen black people need to be buried in the ground. Gay people need to be buried in the ground. Asian people need to, you don't hardly ever see that shit. Women need to shut the fuck up and go in the kitchen. That kind of shit, you don't hardly ever see that on the internet. But you fucking see bury all liberals in the ground all the time. Now, it's driven underground because of what's been happening with social media. This is one of the negatives, I think, of the wokeness on social media. Is now we can't see it as well. Before, you could fucking see it. It was so, these cats didn't fucking care. They were out in the open with it. And we could track it better. Now, they've been driven under. And so, when you bring up the whole, like, it opened your eyes to, hey, maybe I need to train based on my experience as a Texan. Maybe I need to train up with the semi-autos. Yeah. That's a legitimate feeling. That's not Josh being paranoid. We know because we've been exposed to the mentality. And so here we are in this weird spot because a lot of people that think this way are fucking paranoid. And frankly, there is a lot of paranoia in liberal gun liberal gun ownership. There's a lot of, the Proud Boys are behind every blade of grass. That's not fucking real. Or the racists are behind every blade of grass. That's also not fucking real. But it doesn't take but a group of 2,000 of these cats or 3,000 to like rip society apart.
It's scary. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's why it's a good testimony from Josh, and it's kind of important. You know, I don't say much about it, as my responsibility as executive director is to not stoke fires and paranoia and stuff like that. But for those people out there that are listening, this shit's real. You know, we need to be measured about it, but it's absolutely real. If people don't think that those cats who stormed the Capitol on January 6th, those cats are fucking gun owners. Those are the people we're talking about. They just didn't have guns that day because they were smart enough to not do that. But those are the cats we're talking about. They just left their guns at home that day.
Yeah, they were hedging. You know, that they were just hedging their bets. They're like, hey, maybe we can do this. You know, we don't want to go full on, you know, but they were hedging their bets. I subscribe to that. And I tell that to liberals, who are so anti-gun and who will, ask pointed questions, and, that circle, especially in the Episcopal Church, being that I'm a church going guy, our church is very left of center. We have been the target when we install, just to tap into that paranoia. And I know you've got some more points to make, but when we installed our new diocese in Fort Worth, our diocese split. So the old bishop and his churches, they said, hey, Episcopal Church, you're too liberal. You're for same-sex union. You're for, female priests, or, same-sex, or lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender priests. We're not down with that. So we're going to take our shit and leave. And we said, that's great. Don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. And we set up our own new diocese, through the National Episcopal Church. Well, when the presiding bishop, Reverend Catherine Shorey, who was a PhD scientist, an amazing woman, she was the head bull screw moose in charge of the Episcopal Church in the United States. She came to Fort Worth. She had to have security with her, armed security, like earbuds, dark jackets, former Secret Service guys. They were literally former Secret Service guys that worked for the Bass family in Fort Worth, a very wealthy family. She had to have that security because they were getting death threats like, hey, bitch, we're going to kill you because you're, marrying gay people, and, you better watch your ass. That shit that's not just idle threat. That guy may have been an idle threat, but like you said, there's a million or more people behind him, likely just in Texas, that have the same viewpoint. Right. And so when I say that to liberals, I'm like, why would you not want to have some sort of option to protect yourself? Because the cops aren't going to be there, and the cops may share the same sentiment. Right. We already know that. Do we want to trust all of our safety to them? Yeah. And that's, I'm not saying it's not true in other places, but you're giving us a report from the actual cultural reality in Texas. And the vast majority of people, I think, even the people that run their fucking mouth about this, like liberals need to be buried in the ground or whatever, they're never going to do anything. No. They're never going to do anything, but it only takes a small percentage of them. It only takes a small percentage of them for it to be a thing. So it's kind of your evolution is an important evolution. It's important to hear about it. We haven't talked about this hardly at all in this podcast, which is like the bigger thing that's happening in the country and how that relates to guns. I will tell people this, that I can't get too far into it because it's my explanation for why a person should have a semi-automatic rifle is complex. There is no simple answer to why, and everybody wants a simple fucking take, and I'll never give it. But from what I see, without being paranoid and just being calm and reasonable about the things that I feel and think and see and study, if you send the people that you love into the future without the ability to do a number of things, be more self-reliant, be healthier, eat healthier, exercise, get stronger, be the best person you can, have the strongest mind that you can, be as well-read as you can, be creative, be as creative as you can, have a coalition of doers around you, have a relationship with people around you that can make things happen. You need to take those things and you need to make sure that everybody that you love is doing those things to move forward. But in addition to those things, there are some other things. There's a list of other things. It would take me a while to list them.
But one of those things would be, do not send the people that you care about the most into the future without knowing how to safely own and operate a semi-automatic rifle with magazine fed. Do not. If you do that, you are being, I would call it, spiritually malfeasant or existentially malfeasant. Would I put that higher than you need to make sure they can twist a fucking lug nut off, get a tire off, get a tire on? No, probably, maybe. I don't know. I'm not sure about that yet. They need to be able to put a spark plug in. They need to be able to dig a fence post hole. They need to be able to start a business. They need to be able to use the internet and creativity on the internet. They need to be able to do a lot. But definitely do not, if you care about progress, the environment, other people, do not go into the future without knowing how to operate a semi-automatic rifle, magazine fed. Don't do it.
Well-rounded.
Yeah. And what if somebody said, well, if you had to get rid of a few of those things, where would the semi-automatic be? Not the semi-automatic. I don't really give a fuck about the AR-15. It doesn't really matter to me. Like, it's just has to be semi-automatic, magazine fed, and not the pistol. The pistol's important. I'm talking about the rifle.
Mm-hmm.
You need to do that. And I'm getting rid of that one late in the game, if I get rid of it at all. Just be able to do that. And there's a long fucking conversation with me and probably a book of theory on why that is so. But it's not paranoia. It's just what I've observed. And no one else has spent this amount of time and money and energy doing what I've just done. No one on earth has done what I've just done. No liberal gun owner on the planet Earth has done what I've just done. That's the secret. No one has sat in the chair for 40 to 70 hours a week, full time, got paid for it, and observed it. And that's the output of it. Is that.
That's the sauce.
There's a lot of other sauce, but one of them is, if you're a liberal, you consider yourself liberal and you care about progress and people, if you're going into the future and caring about those things and you do not have a semi-automatic rifle, magazine fed, and you're trained with it and you're pretty decent, you're going to be at a disadvantage. And if you really love people that are close to you, don't do it. Don't go into the future without it. Did you, because you've been a LGO moderator, things have calmed down on the page because we have all these rules now and it's really nice. And but have you witnessed anything since, I'm guessing it was 2017 that you've been in since like 2017, shit that you were just like, what the fuck is wrong with these people? What's wrong with this place? What's going on with liberals? We already know about conservatives. We can't even handle how fucking retarded they are. We know that already. We're talking about our own group. Like, what's the shit that goes on with our own group where you're just like, I can't even fucking take this, man?
God, where to start? I mean, we're as fucking performative, and just virtue signaling as anybody on the right, and that was just like double down. The Fudd attitude that we always had to beat down. They would come in here and tell you don't need this, and why are you doing this? You're ridiculous. Fuck you. Like, man, how do you make that jump and say, I'm this gun owner and I'm a liberal and I believe in self-defense, but you wackadoos with your magazine fed semi-autos, or you're contributing to the problem, like that, those kind of just those either or, and that's social media. I know, because you get into your echo chamber and you bounce around and that's all the opinion, you curate your feed to only give that to you. But just this disconnect from like reality, man. Like your time online is directly proportional to your dysfunction in the meat space, Yeah. And you said that, being terminally online, and I'm guilty of it. I'm online a lot, I'm scrolling, I'm on that Twitter feed, but I'm still rooted on the planet Earth.
Yeah. Some people aren't. Some people didn't have that root going in.
No.
And the internet is their first and best experience with relating to people and having relationships. And it might be the only one they ever have. And I think it's a terrible mix for guns. Guns are about being outside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, exactly. The that blend of anime, anime profile pic, uwu, cat's ears and the maid outfit, with your chest rig, like, bro, do your thing. That's great. I don't want to train with you. I don't want to be around you while you're operating a firearm.
Well, a lot of it is, I can't remember who I was talking to this about recently, but similar to homeowners that like to buy tools at Home Depot or Lowe's. And they have all their tools are nice and clean and they're polished, and they're like, I got this new saw and I got this new, and they do use them, but they're really just like into the tool itself and having the cool tools and shit like that. And you start off that when I was a beginning carpenter, you kind of start off with tool fascination, but once you start fucking grinding and making your living off of it, and you're crushing shit and you're destroying your own body on work sites, and that shit goes out the window, man. You're just interested in the thing that will fucking work for real hardcore fucking let's get it on tool. And you don't really care about the price. You're just like, I got to grind this out for a year I got to have this tool. I'm not running back and forth from fucking Home Depot to the job site, replacing this tool constantly because it's a fucking piece of shit and I didn't want to spend the money. Like, you get a maturity about the fucking thing, that the utility of it matters most, and you still get pumped about your new tools. Like, oh, I got fucking new. It's still sweet. You still got, but you're not basking in that loop, and that's the loop that fucking defines your relationship with it, right? And that is just way too prevalent with gun owners online. It's like not going outside and having the thing kick your ass, getting a powder burn on your hand, like the grip sucks, or moving away from static line shooting and having to scoot and shoot a little bit, and you're sweating and everything changes.
Dude, that training with Pincus, my body was so blown out after that. I was like, I am far too fat and out of shape. Like, I have strayed too far from God's light. I have to get back, like, to strengthen my legs and my body so I can deal with that again. Like, I was running around with my blown out jeans and we were taping on pads, so I could go down on a knee, right?
Yeah.
In that gravel. And I'm like, okay, maybe I should have been a little bit better prepared. I thought, oh, I got this. I've done this. I've done training. I know what to expect. No, I didn't.
Yeah. And it's good. It's not that we're, it's not that everybody has to be an awesome shot and in perfect shape. It's just, do you feel and sense the reality of it? And does it make you think? And at least then you can go, I need to shut my hole when I'm online. Like that kind of shit. I need to just shut the fuck up, be humble. Cause I know there's stuff out there I'm just not qualified to talk about. This is a very important lethal implement, and it's a lethal reality. And I just need to shut the fuck up until I know more. That doesn't exist a lot in the very online gun person. And we just spent a lot of money, man, to break down walls, and it's enormously expensive to do. And people are going to choose, like, everybody's all Johnny on the spot with their gun thing until they're asked to walk 15 feet out the front door. And then everything changes. The priorities, my wife doesn't want me to do, all the shit changes. So I don't know how to solve that. It would take a lot of money to overcome a lot of it. But I think it's it's important testimony from you as well, because many of us have started our more intense gun journey from what the internet has given us. Yeah, right?
It brought me to your literally to your doorstep, and then from there, experiences I wouldn't have had.
Yeah. What do you think about the future? Is what I'll ask. We'll just ask this question. We'll talk about guns, the social climate, keeping all that in mind. Two of the most embarrassing, probably possible fucking candidates for the presidency. Just, we thought it couldn't get worse than Trump and Hillary. And here we are at I like Joe Biden for a lot of reasons, but he's fucking 80. It's terrible. So where do you think things are going to go with guns, the social, society? What are you feeling?
Man, I've been in that same sleeve with you for a while. We're going to have to give something up. Like, this shit is going to reach a breaking point. I explain it to liberal friends. They're like, well, we just need to take them all away. And I'm like, okay, you can do that. You're going to need to call a constitutional convention, and you're going to need to amend the Constitution. The shit is settled. Was it Heller? Like, the shit's settled. It's a done deal. It's written down. So if you want to make any fundamental changes, the only way that you're going to do that is at a national level. And it almost sounds like I'm saying, if you're feeling froggy, go ahead and jump. Like, I'm going to call your bluff. You're going to have to take that out of the Constitution. I just don't. I don't know how many more mass shootings can we abide, or school shootings, like in everywhere. I can't even name them all. Right? We're gonna have to. Something is going to be sacrificed somehow, some way, because people will. Even there will be enough death and destruction where we're like, we got to reevaluate all of this. It's not going to look like Australia. It's not going to look like some of the European countries, or England even. Great Britain. I just I'm sort of in this hovering mode, just waiting for that other shoe to drop. I don't want anyone to be killed unnecessarily. And I say unnecessarily, like not someone, innocents to be slaughtered, and children. And I'm not responsible for that by owning a semi-automatic rifle, but that may be something that I'm going to have to either I'm expecting that we'll either have to be highly regulated or may even have to give up, We're not going to play that joke of, oh yeah, I lost them all, man. I was in a fishing accident. They're all at the bottom of the lake. Like, gun owners, we've talked about this. If they're told they got to give some shit up and it's the law, 98% of them are going to do it. That's just what's going to happen. I just don't know how it's sustainable. I don't know how we can keep having these scenes of, children, men, women, children, murdered by these same weapons and then being addressed as the cause.
And this is the paradox I just said a couple minutes ago. If you're a head-on straight liberal, I firmly believe that not just because it will contribute to a healthier culture of gun ownership, I believe that liberals owning semi-automatic rifles, representing them well, training with them well, keeping them safe, and passing that tradition on from generation to generation is needed for an overall healthy culture. Right?
Yeah.
Like notice what I started with. Head on straight. You're good to go. That's needed. Right? But then in the other hand, there is a slew of fucking humans in this country that I do not want to have AR-15s and semis at fucking all.
That was always my argument. It's like, I trust myself as a gun owner. I don't trust you, crazy online guy, with that AR-15.
Right. And so it's a small percentage of people, but there's something about the internet age that is spinning these people up in a way that's unprecedented. And so people who normally would have been dysfunctional in some sort of way, but had to rely on meat space to get spun up, it wasn't able to do it quite potently. But now you can find the thing to spin you up and the people to validate your crazy shit anytime you want. And that is a terrible fucking match for a semi-automatic rifle magazine fed. That's a terrible match, man.
Yeah.
So in one hand, I'm fully convicted. I think liberals need to have them, train them, represent them, keep that thread going. On the other hand, there's a growing population of people that have access to all firearms. I don't want these people having access to the internet, let alone an AR-15, right?
Right.
And I don't have the answer. Like, anybody that's out there that's saying they have the answer, this is my leadership in the gun space. I'm going to be the first guy that stands up in front of everybody and goes, we're starting with this. I don't have the answer.
None.
And neither do you, because there is not an answer. There's not a policy answer. There's not a cultural answer. There's not a commerce related answer. There's no answer. There's a complex reality of fucking trying to figure it out. Right. But that takes cohesion in society, and we don't have that. So I start with, I don't have the answer, but I'll talk to you about what I think and, the analysis of it.
Oh yeah. I've become less convinced of all of my hard set opinions or beliefs the older I've gotten. And I think that should be a natural progression of age. Like, I'm less sure about things. I would say the exact same. I don't have the answer either. obviously I'm not in that space like you are. You've done far more research, far more time. As you stated, no one else is doing this. That is you. We're in a small, small-ish group that spreads out, those ripples into that wider world. But yeah, it just, everyone wants answers. We want answers. We want surety. We want to know that we're right. And I used to like kind of live in that I'm right and this is right and this is how it should be.
What do you think about Biden sucking and Trump sucking and whatever happens next, degrading things further? Let's take the mass shootings thing out of it. But what about the like social tension? Josh has decided he needs to defend himself and his family from these fucking lunatics. And the reality we're about to go into could get even more fucking crazy. Like, what do you think of that? Because I'll just give you my quick take and then I'll leave you to it. Mm-hmm. And that is, if Biden wins, it's going to be more milquetoast and like, just like embarrassing fall down, stupid shit. But nothing is going to fall apart. If Trump wins, things are going to fall apart. The country's going to fall apart. Not necessarily because the economy dives down or something like that, but the social attitudes are going to just crumble. Like the extremists on both sides are going to do their thing, and we're going to be in a worse space, and it's going to be observable. That's my thought. What do you think?
First of all, I 100% agree with you. Milquetoast, ineffectual, doddering, just absolute fumbles, not delivering on any sort of policy or platform that, would stand with a lot of liberals or those left of center or moderates even. Obviously, Trump reelected would be the revenge tour. It would be all out, hands off. He's got a Supreme Court bought and paid for, delivered to him by Mitch McConnell. He's going to have, likely a flipped Senate again. Right. It's going to be bad. It's going to be bad if he wins. Obviously I'm going to pull that lever for Biden if he's the guy on the ticket, because, you vote for as we have all lamented, you vote for the person that sucks less. Right. And that's all we really can do on a national election. There's not many other options. What I do think could have the potential to touch off, man, is they're coming at us hard with the illegal immigration. All this border kerfuffle in Texas, like it's drawing the crazies in. They're going down. They're not in huge force yet, and they're definitely wackadoos. But like you said, that million, there's that other million behind them that's like, hey, it'd be kind of cool if they did that for me. I'm not going to necessarily do it. That's where you can that match can be lit and the fuse burns quicker than anyone thought it could, and that to me is scary.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. It does make sense. We don't really talk about it much. I'm not really thinking about it much. We're in a post-truth world.
Yes.
Some people have said, this will be the last election where AI doesn't play like this giant destabilizing hand. I don't know what to make of it, so I just try not to engage it. I have other things that I could input, and maybe I'll input them later in the year on the podcast about conversations I've had. And some of it's been laid out on the podcast with the threat assessment professionals in mass shootings. I do know that if we get to that point where there's that sacrifice you're talking about, or the AR and the semi-automatics are basically become what has happened in Washington or California or something like that. I just don't think we'll ever have a federalized version of California, it'll never be that strict. But I do know that whatever ends up happening with the semi-automatic rifle, it simply is going to have a minimum effect on school shootings. Just only a small effect on the casualty counts. It's not going to stop them.
No.
That's a whole other behavioral, psychological, social bag that we're in no fucking shape. And we don't have the capacity at this point to do it. We can make it better. But regardless of what happens, the combination of Trump winning, mass shootings not going away, and probably AI, we don't even have a fucking track for how that's going to affect humans and how they do things in the marketplace and jobs and money and all. It's not something I just don't even look at it. It's so large, I don't even look at it. That's the only thing that I can put in there for it is I just want Biden to win so it's not great for guns. But guns have had a lot of wins. Gun rights have had a lot of wins also in the past couple of years. So I'm not as worried about that.
No, I'm not either. I'm just, it's those societal forces. I think, just to piggyback onto it, I know we got to wrap it up. The feeling to me, and I'm certainly not the first person to observe this or even, originate it, is that, these Republican red state governors, they're trying to take us back to a 2-state solution, right? So where all the red people live in red states and we push out all the blues that we don't like. And then conversely, all the blues concentrate in the blue states and we push out the reds we don't like. And then we can just stratify apart. And then that sort of tumbles out to we're just going to do our own thing and we're not going to be part of you anymore.
Yeah.
And that requires blood. And that's what I don't want.
We'll leave it there, Josh. It's a potent thought, but it's good. We went places that I normally don't go, which is why I had the bacon on. Yes. I knew we would. So is there anything else you want to leave us with? Any other thoughts, general thoughts about guns? And
yeah, if you thought about buying ammunition, buy it before you thought about it. Like what do they say? The old proverb: the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. Like that, the time is now. That just not for the coming war, but just always buy ammo because you never know what that price is going to be a month from now or what's going to happen.
Yeah, that wasn't like a prepper Civil War boogaloo statement.
No, not at all.
All right, cool, man. Well, thank you so much for doing this, man. This is awesome.
Yeah, thanks for having me.